Hey, what's up, people? Pharmacist Ben here. How's it going? I got a couple stories here I want to talk about. First of all, let's see. New study finds how a single brain trauma may lead to Alzheimer's disease. All right. New study finds how a single brain trauma may lead to Alzheimer's disease. This was a study that was published in the Journal of Neuroscience. Apparently, when you have a traumatized brain, you can have cells start to produce proteins that can cause the same kind of congestion in the brain matrix tissue that you can have when you have Alzheimer's disease. This all gets back to the idea that the body is composed of cells and matrix. I like to think raisins and bread, just like raisin bread. You have cells and matrix and raisins and bread. The cells are the raisins, the bread is the matrix. All disease is caused by inflamed, congested matrix. From that point, you get dysfunction in the cells. Cells start to produce the wrong things, too much of the same things, too much of the right things. The raison d'etre of a cell is to make things, especially proteins. And we see in the disease state cells producing too much protein or not enough protein, some kind of defect in the production in what a cell produces. This is secondary to suffocation, lack of oxygen, lack of nutrients, lack of detoxification, which itself is secondary to microinflammation. All diseases, people. Alzheimer's disease, Sjogren's syndrome, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, whatever, fibromyalgia, whatever disease or syndrome you have, at the root you have an inflammation and you have immune activity, and then you have suffocation and toxicity and lack of nutrition in a cell. A cell becomes dysfunctional. All diseases, and Alzheimer's is no different. In this study, they show that a trauma can cause the same thing. Well, yes, a trauma can lead to inflammation. When you have the inflammation, the inflammatory process, again, this is where you run into problems. The inflammatory process leading to suffocation, leading to starvation or malnourishment, if you will, of a cell, and then detoxification. Second article. New drug could treat Alzheimer's, multiple sclerosis, and brain injury. Oh my God, a drug that can do all three things. How do you suppose this drug works? Well, quote, the drugs in this class target brain inflammation, unquote. The common denominator, continue quote, which is a common denominator in these neurological diseases, unquote. It's a common denominator in all diseases. So these people are falling all over themselves to congratulate themselves that they've discovered a new drug class that can handle Alzheimer's disease. A drug targets a specific kind of inflammation. That was published in the Journal of Neuroscience yesterday. And then finally, how chronic obstructive pulmonary disease increases the risk of lung cancer. If you've listened to the bright side, you know we're always talking about cancer and lack of oxygen. If you listen to the bright side, we're always talking about lack of oxygen in all diseases, but specifically cancer. Well, guess what? Headline, how chronic obstructive pulmonary disease increases lung cancer. Well, if you've been listening to everything we've been saying for the last year and a half or longer, you know that chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, which by the way is one of the top 10 leading causes of death, I think it's fourth or fifth leading cause of death, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, keyword, obstructive. All diseases are clogging, congestion, suffocation, obstruction. You can see it's just this contraction that takes place in the body. Chronic obstructive pulmonary disease leads to pockets of what's called anoxia, lack of oxygen, hence the formation of cancers. Quote, this study shows an important pathway activated in lung tumors arising in poorly oxygenated regions of the lungs that is not activated to nearly the same degree in other lung cancers. Well, that's just this specific study. But the point is, poorly oxygenated regions of the lung. Cancer cells are cells that have learned to process energy without using oxygen. It's as a survival mechanism because they've been robbed of oxygen for so long. So, once again, we see these basic causes underlying all diseases. The fact is that we think we have 12,000 different diseases, but we don't. We basically have one, and that's a disease of congestion and contraction and stagnation. And basically this happens in the bread, the matrix part of the skin, feeding back into the cells, and then you get dysfunctional cells, which, by the way, creates more broken down matrix because the matrix is created from the cells, and you get this downward spiral of disease. How you handle it? Very simple. Stay tuned to another YouTube Bright Bite as I'm going to call these little episodes, and we'll tell you about how to handle all of this, all of the disease-causing inflammation and immune activity. And I'm sure if you've listened to my radio program, you know what I'm going to say. I'm Pharmacist Ben. Give my show a listen. It's called The Bright Side. It's on the Genesis Communication Network. Google pharmacistben.com and The Bright Side, and you'll get all kinds of information. Till next time, we'll talk to y'all later, folks. Bye for now.